Anyway, okay. Next on, what do I have prepared? So the something about like movie. So s- um, something about like story writing. Like remember Games of Thrones? Like remember when Games of Thrones was cool. Yeah, basically I do too. It's been a while. It talks about like it is called the greatest um the greatest character introduction in TV history. So let me just so yeah, let's just check this out. It will be like
If
let's just check
another
this
house
out.
can seize one of our
So what's his name? If I remember, this is Tywin Lannister.
If another house can seize one of our own and hold him captive with impunity, we are no longer a house to be feared.
This is Tywin Lannister, probably the most powerful man in Westeros, and he's about to deliver one of the greatest character introductions in television history.
Hmm.
When I say this, I'm not exaggerating. This scene is effortlessly brilliant. Because in just a few minutes, we get a masterclass in character development that shows us exactly who Tywin Lannister is. There's no grand entrance or unnecessary exposition, just a man butchering a stag while lecturing his son about power. And somehow, that tells us everything we need to know about him. And the funny thing is, just like the other scenes I've analyzed earlier,
So I think that like when it comes to like creating powerful characters, personalities, it's all about uh basically more of a like if you show power, you lose a lot of it. It just becomes like unbelievable and quite like not as captivating, let's say. Like it is quite the thin line when it comes to like storytelling, where like to show power, you need to show only you cannot just like bless people with that because it, let's just watch. But like I agree with what you
this
said.
one isn't in the books either. It was originally
It didn't said anything about it. Okay.
written by David Benioff and D.B. Weiss. Now, I know what you're thinking, and no, I'm not secretly being paid to fix their reputation, but let's be honest, when they got it right, they really got it right. And this scene is one of those times they absolutely nailed it. So, what makes this scene so great? What makes it one of the greatest character introductions in television history? I mean, of course, I'll talk about all of these things in detail, but first we need some context. By this point in the story, Starks and Lannisters are basically at each other's.
So this is actually quite good because remember what I said about remember when I told you less than 5 minutes ago. Remember when Games of Thrones was cool? Yeah, right. It's been a while. It's been a while. Quite the fucking like. So I missed it. I missed it. So let's. So thank you for the context. Thank you for some context. Valeritas. Like this is good stuff. So let's check this out. Remember when Games of Thrones was cool? We get a nostalgia trip back to when it was the fucking thing.
We need some context. By this point in the story, Starks and Lannisters are basically at each other's throats, because Catelyn Stark has kidnapped Tyrion, and everyone knows this is pretty much a declaration of war. And even though Tywin couldn't care less about Tyrion, he can't just let something like that slide. So he gathers his forces. Meanwhile, Jaime being Jaime and attacks Ned Stark. So right in the middle of all this chaos, we get this scene. Tywin and Jaime in a war tent, where Tywin is calmly skinning a deer while absolutely tearing his son apart. And speaking of which, that stag Charles Dance's skinning was real.
And they said, "You ever butchered a deer before?" I said, "No."
They brought in a deer that had already died, and Charles Dance learned how to skin it on the very day they were filming. I mean, it's mind-blowing that an actor could pick up such a complex skill on the spot while still delivering such a commanding, unforgettable performance.
So actually, it's unbelievable to learn that, but it's also macabre that the actor is quite fitting they really choose the right person for the role, huh? Because it's quite macabre. So you're gonna play a dude. So for today's mission, your mission is to learn how to skin a fucking deer, my bro, my friend. You get to fucking do that. And the dude was like, hell yeah, let's do it.
Just look at him. Even the way he handles the knife is so precise, so natural that it makes Tywin feel terrifyingly real. From the moment he appears on screen, you instantly get that he's not just a father lecturing his son. He's someone who's completely in control of everything around him. Every move, every word coming out of his mouth has a purpose, just as you would expect from Tywin's character. On the other hand, the scene also shows us Jaime in a completely different light. This is the first time we get a glimpse of his vulnerable side. Up until now, the show portrayed him as this confident, unstoppable warrior, the famous Lion of Lannister. But watching this scene makes you realize that Lannister Lion was never Jaime at all. It was Tywin.
Poor Ned Stark. Brave man, terrible judgment.
We actually paused in the same time. Yeah. Remember when Tywin was when Jaime was was the fucking like greatest? Uh, Did you notice how you forgot because the show kept on going while him being destroyed by life, like yeah, what a great show. Anyway,
If you take a closer look at this moment, you can actually see the first signs of doubt creeping into Jaime's face. Look at him right after he says that line. The smirk he gives his father is full of expectation. It's subtle, but it says a lot. This moment is actually a reflection of everything Jaime feels about Ned Stark. As we find out later in the show, Jaime's been holding a grudge against Ned for years, resenting him for seeing him as a man without honor and passing a harsh judgment on him. So here, Jaime is kind of throwing out a bait to his father, hoping for some validation, hoping that his father will back him up. But Tywin doesn't give him what he's looking for. You can literally see Jaime's expression changing when it happens. Instead of criticizing Ned, he turns the tables completely on his own son.
Attacking him was stupid.
Now this is the moment where Tywin truly starts playing his game. Just as I said, everything he says here has a purpose. The whole point of this speech is to break Jaime down so he can rebuild him into the man he thinks he should be. He knows Jaime inside and out. He knows his insecurities, his weaknesses. So he starts by making him feel stupid and then reminds him that Lannisters don't act like fools. Jaime's probably used to this by now. You can actually tell it from the look on his face. But what's really interesting is that if you are a careful viewer, you would know that this dynamic between them was already set up way back in the very first episode.
There was nothing to be afraid of until you told Father. Lannisters don't act like fools.
Lannisters don't act like fools.
But even though
okay, this is brilliant. This is brilliant. I don't know if they did it. I don't know if the dude is right. I guess well, we can know. Like, let's send a fucking letter to the fucking writers. But if he is, they are even more amazing than I thought.
Jaime knows about this, he still tries to explain himself.
Go on, say something clever.
Catelyn Stark took my brother.
Why is he still alive?
Tyrion?
Ned Stark.
One of our men interfered. Speared him through the leg before I could finish him.
Why is he still alive?
Now, there's a lot to unpack here. First of all, Tywin asking why is he still alive feels a bit random and doesn't exactly flow with the conversation. Jaime's obviously confused by it, but if you know Tywin from the books, it actually makes perfect sense. Because in the books, one of the first things we learn about Tywin is that he doesn't believe in half measures. And from Tywin's perspective, attacking Ned but not finishing him off is exactly that. For Tywin, it's actually pretty simple. If you're going to attack someone, why not kill them? And if you're not going to kill them, why bother attacking in the first place? This is actually a perfect example of how Tywin Lannister operates. Practical, direct, and ruthless. But of course, that doesn't mean Tywin expects Jaime to kill Ned. What he's really doing here is challenging Jaime's way of thinking and poking at his sense of honor, which Tywin clearly has no respect for. It's all about getting Jaime to reveal what's really going on inside his head, so Tywin can use it against him. However, Jaime isn't falling for it, at least not at first. Maybe he's just used to his father's tricks, or maybe he knows Tywin will just mock him if he opens up. Either way, Jaime doesn't give him the truth. That's why Tywin repeats the question, because he's not satisfied with the first response. And eventually Jaime...
each time you saw Taiwan, you could feel the pressure when like this actor is just unbelievable, just unbelievable. You can just like rewatching him right now, like it gives me like the fucking gives me the fucking pressure, like something that authority is here, that the important person is here even after all these years. This shows just how well the actor, whose name is, let me check real quick. Um, Charles Dance, like, actually is. Like, it is insane. Like, just take the time to just like watch him. Like for like 10 seconds, right? And just take the time to fucking like be pressured, just like back in the day, just like back in the day. Some things do not change.
Jamie cracks.
It wouldn't have been clean.
You spend too much time worrying about what other people think of you.
I could care less what anyone thinks of me.
Now, this moment is really important because this is the first time we see Jamie for who he is. A man stuck between wanting to be honorable and hiding behind the Kingslayer name as his shield, and the reason he doesn't kill Ned is actually buried somewhere in this dilemma. We all know that Ned Stark is one of the most honorable men in Westeros, so killing him like that would not only ruin whatever reputation Jamie has left, but more importantly, it would confirm everything Ned thinks about him. And Tywin sees right through all of it.
You know, that's what you want people to think of you.
It's the truth.
I mean, think about it. This is season 1, episode 7. At this point, we barely know anything about Jamie, and he's still a bit of a mystery. But Tywin's insight into him is almost like a preview of everything we'll eventually learn about him. He even noticed.
I remember watching Game of Thrones. So when I discovered Games of Thrones, Games of Thrones, Game of Thrones, I watched it. It was a Friday, I think. It was already fully released. The 10 first episodes. It was 10 episodes. My best friend at the time, basically was coming for the weekend, and I spent like the next day I rewatched it. Like it was this good. Like it was so ahead of its time when it got released. Like the first season was so ahead of its time. Like it was unbelievable to see this. Maybe I'll this this dude this dude gives us some like maybe I'll rewatch it. Maybe I'll rewatch it. Maybe probably we'll never get the time. I don't know. But stuff is so good.
Notices things that Jamie wouldn't admit to himself. And when he asks that follow-up question, everything suddenly makes sense.
This should have kept on going. Like with the production value, like 9 seasons, doesn't matter. This should have gone for 100. It should have become like Game of Thrones could have became at least like the fucking like not the One Piece of TV shows, but something in between Bleach and One Piece. So basically like a long, even longer TV show. It was like cutted for some reason. It wasn't following the books, if I remember correctly. It wasn't. It was the bad ending for that, which left like a bitter fucking like feeling for a lot of fans. It should have kept on going, like just like watching, like just rewatching like this this small piece of media where like basically zero that tent and nothing is going on, uh makes me really fucking value how well is it choose the actors, how fucking like great the fucking production value was, the fucking like and the armors and the fucking like clothing and the weapons and everything. And yeah, they should have kept on going and not fall for like the fucking commercial way where it's like let's get it, let's fucking give up and fucking like not be patient with because like the books were like still writing, like the dude was still writing the books as they were releasing. So basically like I don't know, dude, yeah, it's a shame it was still fucking like, remember when Games of Thrones was the best TV show in the fucking world? Yeah, I remember that. I was there.
When you hear them whispering Kingslayer behind your back, doesn't it bother you?
Of course, it bothers me.
The thing is, this is not really a question. Tywin's not asking this out of curiosity. He wants to push Jaime towards a realization. He already knows what Jaime's gonna say, but he asks anyway, just to hit him with that crucial lesson.
A lion doesn't concern himself with the opinions of the sheep.
Honestly, this line is brilliant, because it's not just a lesson for Jaime, it's also a perfect reflection of Tywin's take on power and how he views his family's role in all of it. On top of that, this one line ties everything in the scene together so perfectly and adds this sharp allegorical layer that makes it one of the greatest moments of the entire show.
So one thing that it doesn't mention is, that like it gets talked about, like you get to notice more, is that Tywin actually carries the symbol of the Lannisters within his personality. That like he said, he is the lion, but in a way that like he portrays it, he talks about it, he is proud to be a lion. It is not something that he chose. He didn't choose to be a lion. He was born a lion, but uh, but but he accepted, and it took the Mendel in. Yeah, he actually like wears the lion proudly. Where's the personality of the lion? Where's like he is the lion, like quite personally. And this is what's like, this is something also really important to Tywin Lannister's character. I think that like he is like the Lannisters sayings about them. He knows them all. He says them over and over again. It basically becomes his personality. But this is like kind of like a reverse type of logic where like he so he becomes like all the catchphrases. So Tywin is basically all the catchphrases of the Lannisters personified, as well as the symbols. So the lion and like the gold and basically being wealthy, rich. And but this is like kind of like this inverse logic where like when you describe like, if you describe like TV character or like a fictional character, TV show or anime character as, so base let me just like show this with like explaining it to you with an example. um like basically, if you describe like Tywin Lannister being like, so he only says the catchphrases of his house or his clan, and he only see himself as the symbol of it. It sounds really um really really dull, really like empty as a character, but that's where like the personality actually shows in. And that's where like you see that like the Lannisters also like their Mendel is actually authority and order, right? But like, and you can see that like the actor fucking just nails it. He really succeeds at being like this catchphrase symbolic character that is actually has more personality than a lot of other characters, while technically when you describe it being really simple. And this is something like in storytelling that is really intricate, so complicated to do. But when you do that, well, you get someone that actually like fucking talks about it and said that like this that basically like he is the greatest while another dude explained it to you. Like this is great storytelling. I don't know where I'm going with this, but what's important is just like this reverse logic of what's simple is complicated, what's complicated is simple for some storytelling or some characters, fictional or not, actually.
I mean, think about it. In nature, a lion is at the top of the food chain and superior to sheep, or in this case, to a stag, just like the one Tywin is butchering. And Tywin believes in this natural order so strongly that he applies it directly to his family. In his eyes, just like in their sigils, the Lannisters are lions, and therefore it's only natural for them to dominate everyone else. In this context, Tywin butchering a stag, which represents House Baratheon, is not a coincidence. It's actually a perfect metaphor of a lion hunting its prey. But the scene does more than just symbolize this order. It also foreshadows what's to come. After eliminating the Baratheons, the Lannisters will be the true power behind the throne.
Smart.
As the scene continues, Tywin keeps throwing these sharp observations at Jaime, and you can tell it's really getting to him. Jaime's face says it all. He's getting more and more pissed off, and by this point of the scene, he's not even trying to hide it anymore.
So you can even see the effect of the personality and basically like just like letting yourself like become the character from the actor himself, which is like I feel that like there is a part that is not played but that is felt and truly like reacted to as the actor of Jaime really becomes tired and really like feel oppressed by by Tywin, right? Just because of how great Tywin is and the actor playing it is.
I suppose I should be grateful that your vanity got in the way of your recklessness.
So, how does Jaime react to all this? Well, he does what he always does. He tries to deflect with sarcasm. Just as Tywin lays out all of his contradictions, Jaime spots a flaw in his father's words and thinks he can use it against him, but of course, Tywin isn't having any of it. Before Jaime even gets the chance to finish his words, Tywin shuts him down. He reasserts his dominance. But this time, it's not just his words, it's his voice that reminds Jaime of who's in charge.
I didn't realize you placed such a high value on my brother's life.
He's a Lannister. He might be the lowest of the Lannisters, but he's one of us. And every day that he remains a prisoner, the less our name commands respect.
So the lion does concern himself with the opinions
No,
of...
that's not an opinion, it's a fact.
At first, you might think Tywin's just raising his voice because he's been exposed, but that's not.
So like the line, that's not an opinion, that's a fact. It exactly portrays this what I was talking about the just the fact that like Tywin and the actor is more a symbol and basically like is more the lion than he is Tywin. He is more it is more the Lannister than he is the Tywin, kinda.
Not it at all. When he calls it as a fact, he means it because it's rooted in a harsh reality he experienced in the past, one that Jaime could never understand. And this background, which the books explore a lot more, is key to understanding why Tywin sees the world the way he does. In the books, we learn that Tywin was shaped by his father's failures in a way that defined his entire life. Lord Tytos was a good man, but he was weak, too soft to command respect. The other lords didn't just ignore him, they openly laughed at him. They even gave him a nickname, the Toothless Lion. For a Lannister, that kind of nickname wasn't just an insult. It was a serious hit to the family's reputation. And Tywin saw it all. He saw how that weakness, the inability to inspire fear, nearly brought House Lannister to ruin. Only then he made a choice. He would never let that happen to his family again. He would never make the same mistakes his father did. And to make sure of it, he didn't hesitate to take extreme measures whenever necessary. Once you understand this, also this line makes a lot more sense.
If another house can seize one of our own and hold him captive with impunity, we are no longer a house to be feared.
And of course, this whole thing also connects Tywin's character to Machiavelli's teachings perfectly. We all know that Tywin is pretty much the definition of a Machiavellian character on the show, and honestly, this moment is the perfect example why. Because his mindset right here is exactly in line with something Machiavelli once said. It is much safer to be feared than loved, because love is preserved by the link of obligation which, owing to the baseness of men, is broken at every opportunity for their advantage. But fear preserves you by a dread of punishment, which never fails.
Yes.
At this point, it's hard to say if Jaime's catching all the layers in what his father is saying, but one thing's clear. Tywin's words hit him hard. You can see it on his face, he's definitely caught off guard, but Tywin's not done yet. So once again, he drops another bomb.
Your mother's dead. Before long, I'll be dead. And you, and your brother, and your sister, and all of her children. All of us dead. All of us rotting in the ground. It's the family name that lives on. It's all that lives on. Not your personal glory, not your honor, but family.
If anyone ever asked me to describe Tywin Lannister as a character,
You get to see once again what I was talking about Tywin being the tool of the Lannisters. He is he is less of a person more than he is this symbol, and this is what makes it just so fascinating, because remember when Games of Thrones was actually the greatest show on fucking the greatest show fucking ever. I miss these days. God damn.
I'd point them straight to this moment, because this one line sums up everything Tywin stands for perfectly. In just a few words, we understand exactly what matters most to him.
Do you understand?
With those lines, Tywin finally gets to the heart of what he's been building up to, and he's ready to deliver the final blow to Jaime. If you've been paying close attention, you might have already noticed something interesting. Throughout most of this scene, Tywin barely looks at Jaime. It's like skinning that deer is more important than having this conversation with him. But now, he starts shifting his attention. Even though he's not done with the deer, he takes a moment to clean his hands and then delivers one of the most insidious manipulations we've ever seen in Game of Thrones.
This is also what creates power is to be able to just like I said, skinning the action that he performs perfectly well enough is macabre. So it really adds something to the character that is that you do not see. It's basically basically it's some person performing an autopsy while having a political conversation. It will feel powerful either way, right? But you don't get to see that because doctors don't fucking talk about politics this way while basically opening corpses, right? But also the fact that so the different what you can see and you can feel that past the introduction of Tywin, it is where actions and words do not connect. So he is basically a machine, right? He is basically really skilled, and he does what he does, and it does not matter what he talks about. While other characters will talk about things and will act differently as they, if depending on the conversation, right? So let's say you ride a horse, you're fighting, um, you're training, you're training yourself to fight with swords, or I don't know, you're cooking. Depending on the conversation, a lot of characters will kind of adapt their way to act to the conversation ongoing. While one side that really makes Tywin really this cold and powerful is that this is completely separate, and you can feel it, that it is completely separate from the conversation. compared to Tywin, to Jamie or other characters that will actually react quite emotionally, and depending on the conversation, will do not perform the same, will not have. I found the way to say it. No matter what happens, the skill of Tywin Lannister will not change depending on the weather or what happens in his life during the. It is not the case for a lot of characters, and this is a mark of power, being able to not connect the weather, what's going on, to what you're doing. This is a mark of power.
You're blessed with abilities that few men possess. You're blessed to belong to the most powerful family in the kingdoms, and you're still blessed with youth. And what have you done with these blessings, huh? You've served as a glorified bodyguard for 2 kings. One a madman, the other a drunk.
Let me explain it this way. Basically, there are 2 kinds of motivation. The first kind is the positive one, the kind that makes you feel good about yourself. It encourages you to move forward, to grow, and to reach for your goals, but in a healthy and constructive way. But then there's the second kind, the more insidious one. Instead of building you up, it tears you down. It makes you feel like you should be doing better, but somehow it's never quite enough. Like you're always falling short, always making the wrong choices. And that's exactly what Tywin does to Jaime. First, he acknowledges what Jaime has, what sets him apart from others. But then with just one sentence, he tears down his entire life and identity. The Kingsguard is supposed to be the highest honor for a knight in Westeros. 7 of the finest warriors in the realm, sworn to protect the king with their lives. But Tywin reduces this prestigious position to glorified bodyguard and then further diminishes it by pointing out that Jaime has served 2 unworthy kings. In that moment, Tywin isn't just criticizing Jaime's choices. He's suggesting that his choices have been meaningless, his sacrifices pointless, and his pride misplaced. And then, when Jaime is at his lowest, Tywin offers him a way out.
I need you to become the man you were always meant to be. Not next year, not tomorrow.
Just look at him. Before this, he could barely spare a glance at his son, but now, when he's delivering those lines, he doesn't take his eyes off Jaime for a second. And to make it even more powerful, he adds this physical touch.
And you can see that, like, what I was talking about, connecting actions to what is going on. Now you can actually see that, like, it connected what he's doing to the conversation, and now he uses it as a tool, and this is brilliant, because this is like, it basically, like, he was doing something else and wasn't concerned, so you only get to chat with them, right? Kind of like an NPC in a video game. But then he stopped, he finished, he was done with what he's doing, and then he connected what he is doing to what he is talking about, and you can see the power, because, like I said, his skill doesn't change. And you can, like, as a character introduction, like, what he doesn't mention enough is that, like, this tension, this power, this pressure that Tywin gives off never really changes during, like, during Games of Thrones. Like, it never shifts. The actor is extraordinary, just, like, unbelievable.
You see, this is exactly what makes Tywin a master manipulator. He's not just playing with words, he's also using his body language to control the situation. And from that moment on, Jaime is basically in the palm of his father's hand. By the time he walks out of that tent, you can just feel it. He's completely broken. But perhaps the most ironic part is that we never actually get to see whether that speech changes Jaime, because right after this scene, Jaime walks straight into Robb Stark's trap and ends up getting captured. He spends almost a year in captivity, loses his hand, and is forced to face himself in ways he never thought possible. When you see it that way, yes, Jaime does change, but not because of Tywin. It happens in the weight of the chains, in the loss of his hand, as he's forced to rebuild himself from the ground up. I mean, there's definitely something poetic about it, and it definitely adds this incredible layer to even Tywin's downfall. Because Tywin has always been a man who truly believes he can shape his son with just one conversation, control Westeros through sheer will and manipulation, and that not even the gods could stand in his way.
Which is, I think that like characters like this actually can do this, but you cannot control the external world. You can build people, you can construct people, you can teach people, but you cannot fucking like control everything about them. So, or what happens to them. So I think it is really right, and it actually is more right than you think it is. This is actually like, I love this type of analysis.
But fate, karma, or whatever you call it, has other plans. No matter how powerful he is, his fate, just like Jaime's, ends up being shaped by forces beyond his control. And in the end, for all his power and cunning, he dies in the most humiliating way possible, leaving behind a ton of plans that he never even got to carry out. What is more ironic than a great man who thought he was in control of everything, only to realize he had lost control of his own destiny?
Wow.
So if you've made it this far, thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, I'd really appreciate if you could leave a comment, give a like, and click to subscribe. Your support will greatly help the mysterious algorithm notices me. And if you want to support me personally, you can join the channel by using the join button. See you next time.
Thank you so much, Valartas. I'll subscribe to Valaritas. This was brilliant. Like, he actually talks about like, remember when Games of Thrones was actually the greatest TV show ever made? Yeah, I remember to get down. Time flies, huh? If you wanna cry, I feel you. I feel you. So yeah, but yeah, and actually yeah, and he dies the most humiliating way. It is true. Like, I remember, spoilers by the way, spoilers for Games of Thrones. Do you care about that? But yeah, I think that like he really like noticed something, and the scene like actually. Like, do I go like through like the fucking like mm, uh like Games of Thrones rabbit hole? Maybe I will, but it really like points out something about like the actor, and you gotta admit like Games of Thrones ending really left a lot of people sad and mad and hateful, but Games of Thrones, like in general, what the fuck? We we really fucking got a fucking great TV show, huh? What the fuck? So yeah, this was like the greatest character introduction in TV history by far. With us, do knew a lot of I love this type of analysis. So give him some love. I actually probably will as well. Anyway,